and Justin, and they're out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And they're putting together a weeknight radio program, and their weeknight radio program is speaking freely. You guys talk about a lot of libertarian topics, anything from national news to local news, and they also have an absolutely booming local affiliate. And so here to speak with you guys about it today, about outreach and about building their affiliate, Josh and Justin. Thank you.
Okay guys, so before we jump into the introductions, we're really just put together a list of tips for you guys on how to really build and hopefully build a booming local party. I wanted to just kind of give you a high level on how I came to the Libertarian Party, just for context, and then I'll let Justin run with it. So in 2016, as soon as Donald Trump got the nomination, I kind of realized the Republican Party was going in a way I was not comfortable with. As such, I immediately started looking into the Libertarian Party in my area, and I'd been familiar with them for a while. I hadn't been an activist, but with the advent of Trumpism, I decided it's time for me to actually get involved, try to make a difference, and try to build a party. So I called it local. Basically, I went online, looked for a local meeting, and we found a meeting at a local bar in Knoxville. Justin and I both went. We sat down. There were probably 5 people sitting around a table on their phones. This was, 7 months before the election. Yeah. So with that, we were a little disheartened. So we called the chair of the party. He basically said to us, hey, there's no leadership in Knox County. Justin's in Loudoun County. There's no leadership in Loudoun County as well. And from there, we said, okay, well, if there's nobody there, we're going to take that. And from there, we've built, over the last 2 years, a party with over 50 people coming to meetings. We've gotten featured on local radio, and we've just seen a lot of traction. But none of us have a background in this.
We're amateurs.
We're both complete amateurs, if we're being completely honest. So we have some tips that we learned, and honestly, one of our tips we'll come to, but the most important thing is don't be afraid to fail. We just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. We're going to get into that, but before I do that, let me do some introductions. Unless you actually, Justin, why don't you tell them how you came in?
My name is Justin Cornett. I'm actually regional coordinator for the Knoxville area Libertarian Party and Loudoun County chair. As Josh said, he and I have been friends for a while. I've always been kind of, the two parties are stupid, and there needs to be some other solution based on people. Josh found this meeting, and yeah, we went to this meeting. That was the very first meeting that we'd ever been to. It was, what, 2 years ago next month? It was 2 years ago next month, wasn't it? Yeah. So that was the very first meeting of any type political, of any political meeting that either one of us had ever been to. And since then, we have, as he said, we probably had at least 300 or 400 individuals come through our meetings. We've been able to make friends with pretty much everybody that's an office holder in the area, and so much so that we had a radio show offered to us. It wasn't something that we went out and asked for. They came to us in town and said, hey, we like y'all's opinion, we would like to have you on the radio, and that's how we got there.
Right. So I just want to dive into some of these slides. So just so you guys know, I'm the chairman of the Knox County Libertarian Party. I co-founded a website called recuro.org. It's basically a libertarian media platform for people that want to push libertarian ideas in Tennessee politics and nationally. And I'll get over to some of the traffic and the luck we've had there. But yeah, that's me, Justin, obviously.
I'm so much better looking than you. Sorry.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, Recuro is one of the things that me and Josh have put together. We had originally decided that we were going to try to talk about the founders and all this world of less government that we were supposed to have in the first place. And since then we have retooled it, and it's been a site where we've asked everybody in the state, a Libertarian Party, local officials, other folks like that, to write anything that they would not normally get published in a regular paper. And that is able to keep us up with a lot of content. We get Republicans that want to write hit pieces about other Republicans, which we're happy to help with, So.
But we'll get into that. So I just kind of want to run through what we've done, and then we're going to get into our tips. So again, we've got a radio show on 92.3 that's been great for the last 6 months. You can look at our episodes online. We've networked with a lot of local politicians. That guy right there, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Tennessee politics. That's the author of the Don't Say Gay bill. who made some national news and is kind of a contentious figure, but we've had the ability to talk to these people and actually discuss our opinions on the issues with them by being cordial, just kind of going through some of the tips we're going to talk about here in a minute. Online, we've reached over 4,000 people a month on our web pages, 150,000 monthly social media impressions, and in the 2016 election, we reached over 5 million people with social media just by following some of these principles that we're going to lay out here.
We had a week during the election, just before the election, where we had 1.8 million touches on our Facebook page. Wow. Which, yeah, is crazy. But
for a local page, yeah.
For a local page that we had only had up for about 8 months at the time.
So we have over 50 people at our monthly meetings, and it's always pretty consistent, a lot of people engaged. But let's get into some of these tips. So before we get into the actual meet, I want to just go over our 4 golden rules. I'm going to kick it off and let Justin take the second one here.
Don't be afraid to fail, people. As we said, we're both amateurs. We have no idea what we're doing, so we have made up a lot of stuff. Some of it's worked, some of it hasn't worked, but try everything. There is no handbook for how to draw people into your party. You can use whatever you think works best. What would draw you to the party is also going to draw other people that are like-minded into the party. So as long as you're not a crazy person, you're probably going to draw a strong majority of people in. That's exactly what we found.
As David said, the majority of people are looking for this message. Just kind of have to be the platform for them. And really, nobody really has a monopoly on good ideas. Try stuff, see what works, see what doesn't.
Right. If I may.
Yeah, sure.
Josh tends to lean a little bit more left. I tend to lean a little bit more right. So you'll find us out in the community trying to recruit people, and Josh will end up at things like atheist meetings, and I'll end up at things like Tea Party meetings. And both of them show up, and then he's friends with the people I bring, and I'm friends with the people he brings. It's a really nice dynamic. But play to your strengths on that.
Yep, so the second one here is consistency is key. This is something that I see a lot with local parties. You have county affiliates that'll throw a meeting, they won't get a lot of traction, so they won't be back next month, right? So really the key thing that we found that's successful is have your meeting at the same place, the same day every month, and make sure you're there. Even if it's 5 people, even if it's 3 people, just make sure you show up and make sure you're there every month. And it will grow, it's a snowball. So
don't be afraid to let it be fun too. I mean, politics is rough, and a lot of people get angry over it, but if you can have fun with it, make jokes about it, all these different things, these are things that draw people in. I mean, kindness. Like, this is what people want. This message. People need to hear this message, and they would like to hear it presented to them, I think, in a way that doesn't sound the same as the Democrats or Republicans, where you need to be afraid of the other people. I don't think that's the way to play them.
right, Justin, you want to do the third one? That goes to what you're saying.
Be nice. Be really, really nice. My goal is not to fight with anybody. My goal in Dreamland, I would be able to take the Tea Party people that are, immigrants are the worst thing in the whole wide world. We got to keep brown people out of the country because they're going to kill us all kind of people. I want to be able to have a conversation with them about that and agree to disagree, and then we can still go and lobby our local legislators on gun policies. We can talk about tax policies, all these other things that we have in common. Like Josh said, we have that guy Stacey Campfield. If you guys want to look him up, it's kind of funny. Jon Stewart made him famous.
Not in a good way.
Not in a good way, because he's one of those guys. But the ability, there's a really good chance that he's going to win an election in this next term, and there's a really good chance that I'm going to have bills that we want introduced. So I would like to have somebody there that likes us enough to say, hey, yeah, I'll take that bill, and we'll get that introduced. So, as a third party, you kind of have to rely on government to work with you. So, as crazy as it sounds, to be it from the inside, you got to get inside first.
Last one is let your guest speakers do the speaking. And I say this because, again, we're all libertarians. We get very passionate about what we believe. And I'll go to county affiliate meetings, and we'll have a county chair standing at the front of the meeting, kind of going on a tirade about, anti-government stuff. And, they're usually on point. But when somebody comes in and they're new to libertarian philosophy and libertarian ideal, it's good to let them pick up on what you believe through the process of asking questions. So we'll get into this later, but at every meeting we have a guest speaker. And the guest speaker is usually somebody from local politics. And the only thing we ask our guest speakers when they come in is, will you take questions at the end? If you cannot take questions, we're not going to have you at our meeting. So they always take questions, and at the end of the entire speech that they do, our members and our leadership will directly ask the questions that oftentimes expose our values as libertarians.
Right.
And they're challenged by them. And when people are listening, sitting in the meeting and listening to what the kind of questions are being asked, that's their entry point. And then you can go have a conversation with them after the meeting or directly. Anything to add before I go?
All these politicians, if you guys have ever asked any politician to show up at a meeting, you know that they want to show up. They want to talk to the people. They want to get their name out there. They want to get their message out there. They'll take whatever they can get. Use that to your advantage. Have them come in. One of the big reasons we started with speakers the way that we do is because, again, we are amateurs. So how local government runs, who's who in local government, what's going on in local government, all these different things. How are we going to know that without having these people come into the meeting? So we invite them into the meetings. We try to endear them into our group because we don't attack them. We agree to disagree, and we remain friends. We've got 3 Democrat friends on the city council and a whole bunch of Republican friends on the county commission. So whatever we need, any updates we need, we have the ability to go get those because we've used the meetings to give them an opportunity to talk to us and get their message out there, and we've stayed cordial with them the whole time.
Sure. Another thing that I want to establish before we continue is in Tennessee, we don't have ballot access. It's one of the top states in the entire country for requirements for ballot access. They require us to get 33,844 signatures, and then we immediately have to run someone in a statewide race to get 5% of the vote, or they throw it out. The Election Commission threw out 14,000 of our signatures this year. 14,000. We got halfway there and they said no. So with that said, we don't have the kind of leverage that you guys might in North Carolina where you guys do have policy access. So we really have to use politicians as our road in. And we've gotten them to put legislation on the floor for us. We've gotten them to do a lot of things that they may not have been willing to do for libertarians in the past just because of those relationships. And I think that principle holds true as well here in North Carolina. But I want to go through some tips that we've learned, just the stuff that we've found over the last several years. So tips on venue. First tip, find a space you can grow into. Find a space that is not going to be too small too quick. Make sure you can put 20 or 30 people in there, even if you have 5 or 6 coming at the beginning.
We were lucky enough to find a venue that would do revenue sharing. There are different businesses out there that are just simply looking for business. We actually got to a Quaker Steak and Lube. Is where we do our meetings. It's one of my favorite things when I'm asking people to come to our meetings. I can tell them it's beer, wings, and politics. That always seems to go over well. But we simply asked Quaker Steak and Lube if they would be willing to cut us a percentage if we could pack their building out once a month, and they were like, yes. So we get a 10% cut of everything that everybody that walks in there spends every single monthly meeting. That's a lot of our money.
I'll go straight to the coffers, and that's extra money on top of the donations we're receiving as well. Not every restaurant will do that, and as you grow, you'll find more that will. If you could say, hey, I'm going to promise them to have 20 people at this next meeting at your restaurant, they'll be happy to work something out. Again, make sure it's got a separate room. I'm sure this is kind of apparent, but this is really, really critical. Don't put yourself in the middle of a dining area. You need something set aside. You need something where you can, again, have the ability to talk loudly, get people's attention, and be kind of separated from the rest of the noise.
And with any luck, you will need speakers so for everybody in your meeting to hear at some point too.
So Justin, take this one.
Yeah, definitely you want to talk to the management directly. Don't go through hostesses. Don't go through any of that stuff. Work on building that relationship with that restaurant. Or wherever it is that you're trying to put it. I would tell you, I strongly recommend a place where people can go and have beer, bring their family, have food, all those good things. Our meetings Our meetings are a little scattered, there's no question about it, but we get a ton of stuff done because nobody is interested in going home. I usually get our meetings at about 5:30. I've never left one before 11:30 in the evening. So, I mean, it's that much going on even outside the meeting. So you can get your business done. We do business at the beginning of the meeting, then we break into our speakers. But any extracurricular stuff, you got plenty of time for that if you're in a place that nobody's interested in leaving.
It's always good to get the business done before you start drinking, at least from my experience. So.
Yes.
All right, so again, we just kind of secondary, build a relationship. We found that we have restaurants that will do revenue sharing with us after we've been there for 6 months and talked to the manager. It's just a connection. Again, this goes back to what Justin just said. Make it a place people want to go. We tried it in a library. We did that for about 3 months.
Didn't work well.
We had people show up. It just didn't work well. People, again, if they can bring their family, have a beer, hang out, enjoy themselves, there's kind of a benefit there. So some tips on guest speakers. Why don't you take the first one here?
Yeah, again, we do want to do guest speakers for every meeting. They are valuable resources. Even if we disagree with them, they can tell us the dynamics of what's going on in town that you're not hearing in the newspaper. They can tell you the dynamics of different positions. You know, sometimes you're talking to a city law director and you need to know what his role is because people don't. But use the speakers to help inform your people about how local government works, and so that they can actually meet the people that are supposed to be serving them and put a name to the face. And I can guarantee it's much easier to get somebody to call a council person or a sitting state congressman that has been to a meeting, that has shaken hands with the people in this group, than it is to just have somebody call somebody cold that they've never talked to, never heard anything of, things like that.
Right, and to add one more thing to that, we had a meeting, for example, back in December with Glenn Jacobs. It was one of the biggest meetings we've had in a really long time. And I'll tell you, we probably had 15 people that showed up at that meeting specifically to see Glenn, that came back and continue to come back for a year because they were brought in because of Glenn. They wouldn't have come otherwise, but they learned about our values while we were there. We had conversations, and that was our entry point. So again, state legislators, or state reps, state senators, it's always good, especially if there's a policy issue they're there to talk about. That's usually a good way to bring people in. Again, Justin kind of covered this one. And again, I say this pretty importantly, again, libertarians, we can be dogmatic. You can go out there and talk about libertarian policy. What I do is I stand up at the beginning of every meeting, I go through 4 broad points as to what libertarians stand for, and then I let the speakers do the rest. And we let our questions do the talking, let our questions represent our values. Some meetings have been fun because of that. We've had county commission individuals come up and talk about how they want to spend a bunch of money on light rail or big infrastructure projects.
No, he walked into our meeting and said that we talked about how proud he was to have served the community as a property assessor who confiscated people's houses for property taxes and then resold them. That was a mistake. The very first question he got was on property rights, and he failed that miserably. The second question that he got was, do you have any principle that you stand on when governing? And his response was, I want to be a voice for the people. So the person asking the question said, so mob rule is your principle.
So again, that really energized the people in the meeting because we had a lot of people asking questions, a lot of people getting engaged, and when that county commissioner left, he knew what the Libertarian Party stood for, I guarantee that.
He also knew he made a mistake. And he said,
Never come back.
Well, we'll invite him back, so I don't know. We'll see.
That was last.
He's going to win his race. He was actually running for re-election or for election, and I think he's planning to win. So we'll see what happens.
He's planning to win.
He was running for one, if I remember, unopposed, or he was running against a write-in candidate.
He was running against a guy that had all kinds of rumors of sexual abuse and child. I mean, it's like
it's a situation where he's like the only guy in the race.
Yeah, there was no chance he was going to lose.
Clicker is not working.
But I was told
You're
that
hit space.
almost cried when he left the game. So.
We frozen. Technical difficulties, 1 second.
Great to go.
Oh.
on that county commissioner. That particular guy was being supported by a guy that used to be the chair for the Republican Party there in Knox County, real tied into the good old boy network. He's, you know, getting his friends, the former county sheriff, moving on up and things like this. But me and that one particular Republican have actually built a pretty decent relationship. So I asked him if we could get him as a speaker. I asked the Republican former chair if we could get him as a speaker, the commissioner. So the commissioner comes, he gets absolutely crucified in our meeting. I heard, I actually had another Republican tell me that they heard that he left the meeting crying, which I don't believe. I didn't see it. But the very next day, the former GOP chair who sent his young county commissioner friend out to us called me up and said, hey, was that a setup? I mean, that was the question I had, because the questions were like that. Like, were you guys setting this up? And I was like, no. And I just explained to him, look, we're libertarians. He walked in, he said, I've sold 500 houses now. Talked that he had confiscated because of tax dollars. He just made a mistake. The Republican guy understands that. His mentor guy, the former GOP chair, had a conversation with him. They told him, know your audience, essentially. And yeah, we're all still friends. I'm trying to go play golf with the guy next week.
Mm-hmm.
You got it working?
Yep.
About time.
Wi-Fi went out.
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty, let's get back to where we were here, guys. Okay, so this is the big one that I think has been the most successful for us. So when we first started our party meetings, we went to the LPTN, the chair of the party at the time, and said, hey, do you have a list of everyone in our county, emails and names? And what we did was we took that information, because either the state party usually has that, and I don't know if the LPNC leadership does, but if they don't, the LNC has it. They have a list of the registered voters or the people that pay dues to the Libertarian Party. You can take that name and import it into a mailing list, and it's been extremely successful for us in getting people out to meetings. So again, you can use a free tool like MailChimp, doesn't cost anything. Import the names and the email addresses in there, throw a template together, put the date of the meeting, and then send out a meeting invite every month. We have people that were dues-paying members to the LP in the 90s that came to our meetings. They said, I haven't had anything going on in 30 years, and here I am.
And they're thankful.
Yeah, exactly. So again, send a monthly meeting reminder. That's really important. And then,
yeah, at your meetings, make sure you're using sign-in sheets effectively. You want to create a file with all these different emails, so you can build your email list. You can, build a list of people to ask questions to. I would also encourage you to try to set up teams in your meeting. You got people that can spend a lot of time on Facebook and can agree to share so much stuff per day or something along those lines. Those are things that help you beat the algorithms, get you more traction out there. Maybe you recruit a call bank out of your group, 10, 12, 15, 30 people, however many you guys can get. Have them on a list, have them sitting there waiting for you whenever you actually need them for a particular policy. But definitely collect information in your meetings, use sign-up sheets, for everything.
all right, so what we've learned on social media for outreach, again, we're just regular post content memes. I mean, that's all we do, really. That's actually how we got the 5 million reach, was we posted a meme with something that's relevant to the news of that week, and it blew up. And it gets shared by people in our county, it's shared by people in the area, and it just kind of goes viral, and all that traffic's directed back to the East Tennessee Libertarian Party on our website. Again, if you have any other county pages, ask them to share the stuff you're posting and do the same, vice versa. Stay consistent with it. That goes back to our message. Don't ignore the page for days.
Keep it up with current events too. If there's something important going on, make sure that you're establishing a commentary on it. The narrative, as was talked about in the previous thing, is something that is very important, and you need to try to press at people. So this is what you use that for. Grab a local article, give your spin on it, post the article with it, and those are things that people need to hear.
So another thing that we've gotten, probably 70% of everyone that comes to our meetings comes through Facebook invites. So make sure you have an invite for every single meeting, put it out there. I'd say share 3 to 4 times before every event on your page, your personal page, your affiliate pages, whatever you can do there to make sure that people on Facebook know where you're going to be and when you're going to be there. This kind of goes into our networking aspect here. If you have an officer position with the LP, put it as a job in your profile, and then go and add people in local politics to your page. Because not only do they see you work for the LP, builds credibility in who you are, and they can engage with you on your networks. You can talk about the issues, you can talk about what you really hate about Republicans or Democrats, and they'll see it, they'll know where you stand, and it kind of builds credibility for you as a force in that community. So some PR tips, unless Justin, you have anything to add there? You good? Okay. So this is a pretty simple. Take about an hour, go find the local news channels in your area, find their info at emails or their press emails, press at emails, take it, put it in an Excel sheet, make it into a list, import it into a tool like MailChimp or a free email marketing tool, and then you can send press releases to this list every month. I could give you a template if you come talk to me after the meeting. There are templates available on our website. We can give those to you as well.
If you don't want to take the time to do the footwork on that, every local party, most of your different advocacy groups in town, they all have those lists. So if you're friends with somebody in a Democrat Party or Republican Party, just ask them, they'll probably hand it to you. That's what happened with us.
Yeah. And there are a million templates online. Just fill it out. Say, we're going to be, the Libertarian Party is going to be at this place at this time, and they're going to be these guest speakers. Send it out. A lot of the times we see local news stations will share that. Put it as an article. As I said, templates are available. Feel free to talk to me if you need one, or you can Google press release template. So some quick tips on blogging. This is pretty important, I think. Have a blog where you talk about what's going on in your party. Start something that you can take a piece of content, like a blog post about, look what the Libertarian Party did for Knox County this week. Take that and share it on your social media pages. Even if it's a WordPress blog, something that has a piece of content that you and your members can share. It builds credibility and gets more traffic.
Original content.
Again, builds legitimacy. Your members often have opinions. We're all libertarians. We have strong opinions. Get them to write opinion pieces and post it on this blog. We've done this with Recuro. We've gotten thousands of hits on some of these opinion pieces on local politics. A lot of shares, and it's members, libertarians, just talking about the issues. It's been extremely helpful for driving people back to learn about the party and just about the message in general.
And with ours, the way we have it set up, again, we ask people, if anybody in the whole wide world, if you've got something you want to say, you can submit the article to us. That is engagement. That's people being engaged by you, and you probably don't realize it. And just offering somebody the opportunity to write something and you go out and post it and promote it for them, it will make somebody feel really good about themselves. That's going to endear them to you and your group for a very long time because you're taking their opinion seriously. I know so many people have opinions and just have no way to get them out. Help them get them out.
Just make sure you check the grammar first. If it's going to be going on those pages, make sure it doesn't look terrible, of course. Obviously, as I said earlier, share on those social networks. Okay, Justin, I'll let you take the lead on these tips. This is just tips that we have for personal outreach on getting people to the meetings.
Yeah, Josh thinks that the email stuff is the most important stuff because that's the stuff that he handles. I'll tell you, face-to-face outreach is where it's at. And even just speaking to someone, if it's not face-to-face, for the first 6 or 8 months of meetings that we had, I would send somewhere, I probably started at about 50, and I ended up at over 100 every single month, messages, individual messages that I was sending to individual people in the community that had, commented on our Facebook page or liked our Facebook page or any of this stuff. I see this in the notifications, I'll go up, I'll check the guy out, if he's in the area, I'll make friends with him and shoot him a message. Hey, I'm the regional coordinator. We're we have a meeting coming up. Are you interested in the Libertarian Party? And start a conversation with them. Like I said, we probably had at least 400, maybe more, individuals, different individuals come through our meetings. And a lot of those are very regular attendees, but most of them are just people that are curious. So many people don't know what they think about politics, which is why it's a team sport. It's so much easier just to pick a letter and go on. So you have people that are out there that are curious, and keep your door open and try to satisfy that curiosity. Engage these people. They want to be engaged, but they wouldn't be commenting on your stuff.
Okay, this is something I do every single month. I post a status update that says, hey guys, our meeting is next week. Are you coming? And you'd be shocked how many people get engaged, say, oh, I can't make it this week, or da-da-da. Every time somebody comments, every time somebody likes, it pushes it up in the algorithm. It gets you more exposure, and it gets more people looking at it, it gets more people in meetings. So, quick tips on networking, and then we're about done here. Get some sort of identifier. I mean, we've got these pins, Justin's got some business cards, just something that kind of you can use to reference yourself as a libertarian, so that when you go up to a legislator or go up to a person, they know who you know, which party you're affiliated with. And a real quick question, does the North Carolina legislature let you guys walk in or have meetings with legislators? Do they have like open days at all? Do you guys know?
Open every day.
They're open every day, okay. Okay, good.
Now you have to go through a metal detector, but you can.
Okay, cool. So so in Tennessee they have like open legislation day or legislative days where they open up the doors. Anyone can walk in. Anyone can go sit down with a legislator, really unannounced, and have a discussion with them as their constituents. That has been immensely helpful. We put on a pen, we grab some cards, we go out and we talk to every single one we can. We introduce ourselves as people in the party and we say, listen, is there anything we can help you with? Is there anything you're working on? What's going on in your world? And we use that as a springboard to not only build relationships, but maybe help them with something that we agree on, right? A lot of these Republicans might be, trying to do a, constitutional carry, yeah. We'll get people say, can we, exactly. And again, it just helps build those relationships. I already covered those. Justin.
Yeah. Does this work? Try it again. All right. So, advocacy groups. Everybody knows Republicans and Democrats are the enemy. Who's not the enemy are people that are advocates for the Second Amendment. And there are plenty of groups out there that do that. There are groups out there that are for criminal justice reform. We're definitely for that. There are anti-tax groups. We are definitely for that. Those are places where you can make friends and you can help build your meetings. Those aren't parties. Those are advocacy groups. They're looking for some party official of some party to go and advocate for the things that they want. You can be that guy if you introduce yourself and say, hey, we're the Libertarian Party and we already hate taxes and love guns and think that too many people are labeled criminals. Of all the places you can recruit, targeting these advocacy groups, I think, is the best place you can do it. Josh mentioned having Glenn Jacobs and that being a bolster to our meeting. We also had Tennessee Firearms Association. Tennessee Firearms Association is one of those groups that's not like the NRA that's only there for that one particular policy and a whole bunch of donations. They are, full constitutional carry, constitutional gun rights. That's where we stand, and those people see that that's where we stand, and now we are friends with that entire group. We had the one guy that is the head of the association 2 months ago, and we've got 10 or 15 new people at our meetings, just like that.
So again, local government meetings, city council meetings, county commission meetings, go there, ask questions, make sure they see you there. Introduce yourself directly, make sure they know which party you're with. Again, people will know, oh, Justin is the guy with the Libertarian Party. And again, it just kind of builds legitimacy in the mind of these legislators. So just some tips on what we found with people in our meetings here. Justin, I'm gonna let you take this one.
Sure. Operate as a facilitator and a connector. I mean, can you all hear me? So, like when we started this, we told you we were amateurs. So we have the fortune of not being under some delusion that we know what we're talking about and everybody else is wrong. So what we want to do is we want to find people that have expertise in fundraising or research or policy writing, any of these things, and we want to empower these people. You know, as a libertarian, personally, as a libertarian, I'm not one that thinks that I have all the right ideas. I absolutely admit that I'm human and I'm fallible. So I'm constantly looking for somebody that has better ideas than I do, so that I can have them jump off of my shoulders, because the bottom line is the success of the party is what I'm interested in. The idea of spreading the freedom and liberty and bringing all these the ideas of the founders back to this nation, those are the things that I'm interested in, and I'm happy to be a footstool for somebody that's better than that. Don't let pride get in the way of that. You know, be a facilitator, empower the people in your group. Again, that endears them to you, it makes them lifelong members.
As you said, it's really, again, we try not to make the meetings about us. We try to talk as little as possible. We want to try to bring people in. I try to talk to everybody who comes in, identify what skills they have, and see if I can fit them somewhere. And that's what these meetings are amazing for. We have people that come into our meetings that work in law, people that work in finance, people that work in journalism. And what we do is we ask them, you know, you're here, you have the values, will you help us? And it's just asking that simple question has brought a bunch of people that have just done the work. And it's shocking just by asking them. Nobody asks them. And just going up there and actually doing it is really powerful for some of these people. We kind of covered this.
Yep.
Nurture people with skill sets. If somebody's doing work, give them a position. Call them your party director of communications. Make them vice chair. I mean, again, a lot of these county affiliates in the state of Tennessee don't have as many members. So, you know, there are open positions. There's only a chair. You can give them a vice chair role. You can give them a secretary role. And they'll, again, do the work if they feel like they're doing it for a reason. And that's most of it. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Oh, I don't think, I'm going to see somebody give me. Not sure if this will reach.
You have to repeat the question.
Okay, what's the question?
Now, you mentioned Glenn Jacobs. I was wondering how his race for county mayor how has that dynamic affected what you're doing?
Yeah, so we actually, he asked about how Glenn Jacobs' race for mayor has affected what we've done in Knox County. We met with Glenn before he actually announced, and we had a really heart-to-heart with him and asked him, and we said, hey, you know, we're trying to grow this party. Will you run Libertarian? We don't have ballot access, so he was out on that. Maybe that'll change in 2 or 4 years. It's really helped us a lot because in Knox County, Knox News Sentinel, for example, has written articles. Hey, look at this radical libertarian about to win race for county mayor, and it's gotten a lot more exposure on our ideas, I'd say. And he comes out to our meetings, and you know he has a line of communication with us, so there's some benefits there as well.
And we can absolutely claim responsibility for his win too, because he won by what, 23 votes in the primary? Yeah. He won by 20. He defeated the other 2 Republicans running for that seat by 23 votes. Like I said, we got 60 people at our meetings most months, so you rest assured that little bitty teeny tiny difference was absolutely made up by us. We'll have another race that we're going to be able to be a wedge in as well. So that other questions?
Did you have ballot access at one time in the lawsuit?
No, sir. The state in the 60s was trying to keep socialists off the ballot.
Well,
So
we have a similar story.
yeah, they pushed it up to the 2.5% of the governor's
So
race.
Gary
at that
Johnson
time.
wasn't on the ballot last time.
No, he was on the ballot as an independent. Yeah.
Because the dynamic will change once you get ballot status.
I
As far as
actually
dealing
think
with
that-
legislature.
Yeah, yes, you're right.
I actually think he was on the ballot as a libertarian last year because of the lawsuit.
He was.
I could be wrong. But no, yeah, we don't have ballot access. So.
Yes, sir. My name is Brad Hessel, and I'm treasurer of the Wake County Libertarian Party, as well as IT manager of the Libertarian Party in North Carolina. And I have a question related to both things. Before I ask, though, I'll say that Wake County has gotten to the point where we're meeting weekly, and actually have experienced very similar to what you guys have said. I can personally vouch for like 90% of what these guys are telling you is definitely right, and the other 10%, I'm very anxious to try now.
I appreciate that.
My first question with respect to treasurer, actually it's not so much a question as a comment. One issue that we potentially have in North Carolina with the idea of revenue sharing is that we're not allowed to accept money from any corporations. That is to say, the affiliates are not allowed, or candidates aren't allowed. Now, if it's an LLC where guys personally operating this thing, then you might be able to get away with it. But if it's a corporate situation, you can't actually accept funds directly from a corporation.
Understood.
As an affiliate. With respect to the LPNC, I would just like to mention, with respect to the idea of the social media promotion and email. As most of you may know, the LPNC does put together a Facebook page for every affiliate. Some affiliates are using them quite actively, others not so much. We also have a state Facebook page, and we are actively soliciting affiliates to let us know about events that they have posted on Facebook so that we can share them, not just on our Facebook page, but also on our web page. So if you have such an event, make sure that someone in the IT department knows about it, and you can do that very easily by just sending an email to admin@lpnc.org or inviting us, one of us, myself, or Andy Stoida, or Chris Dooley, any of us, just invite us to your event, and that will also trigger, that should trigger this action. And finally, with respect to email, we also have the capability of sending out email blasts to your county. If you would like to do that, we can set you up to do that through our Nation Builder customer relationship management database. So again,
do you provide Nation Builder logins to the local county affiliates here in North Carolina?
If we work with individual counties on an individual basis, we do have a few that do have individual logins. There's also 3 counties that have their own Nation Builder
awesome.
sub-nations.
Yeah, so again, when we started, there was none of that, so that's really good to hear that you guys are ahead there. When we started, there was no CRM, there was really no standardization from the top, so you guys definitely have a head start there. And you actually triggered something that I wanted to mention too. One thing that we've seen that's been really helpful is taking counties that are around each other and doing shared meetings. So if you're only getting a couple people at a meeting, call the county next to you and say, hey, can we do a shared meeting, a joint meeting? And that has really helped us get the ball rolling there as well. That's why we call ourselves the East Tennessee Libertarian Party, because we feel like putting the word Knox County or Loudoun County or any specific county will keep some people from going thinking it's business only.
Yeah, every single month we get people that drive at least 45 minutes to our meeting. Every single month, and I'm not talking 1 or 2, I'm talking a dozen people will drive 45 minutes to an hour from the meeting. You're not familiar with the area, but every bit of an hour. We've got them coming from getting close to the border with North Carolina and coming from pretty much Middle Tennessee, and they all come to us.
Any other questions, guys? Anything else?
Do you feed your speakers?
Say it again?
Do you feed your speakers?
Yes. Our restaurant does. We don't pay the bill, no.
No, we don't pick up their tab.
Usually I try to keep them staying around longer if the questions don't get too rowdy. Usually they'll stick around and have a couple drinks, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I'll usually buy them a beer if I can.
All right, are we good? Anything else?
Yeah, we got.
Oh.
Since you don't have ballot access, when you bring some of these politicians in or people running, do you often not necessarily endorse, but support specific people, or how does that?
No, if they're a Republican or a Democrat, we do not endorse them at all. Period. That's just we don't. I don't even think according to our bylaws we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, the most that we've done is like somebody like Glenn Jacobs, who's running as a Republican, who's really a libertarian in disguise. We offer him our meetings and allow him to come and solicit volunteers from us. If any of our people want to go and help him as a Republican, that's fine. If they want to take a principled stand, say, oh no, you're a Libertarian Republican, I'm not gonna do it, that's fine too, but, we will let him ask.
Yeah, the only candidates we're endorsing are LP candidates, so. Anything else? Any other questions, concerns? Nope.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.